I think I got everything set up, so we're gonna get into it and start off with our movie puzzle. Ooh, we got a short name this week. Ocean's 12. Because of the length, I think it's Brad Pitt. And then 7 also has Brad Pitt in it, but there's a lot more letters, so I'm going to assume this is going to be Morgan Freeman. I'm gonna take a wild guess that the first name is gonna be Ben. I have an idea for who it might be, but we'll keep going. Training Day, because of the amount of letters, pretty sure it's Denzel Washington. Oh, yeah, if it starts with an A, it's not who I thought it was. The Hunger Games. Bit of a longer name, so it might actually be Jennifer Lawrence. Yeah. What was this one? Oscar winner for 1972. Oscar winner for 1975. Once again. Yeah. Daniel Plainview. One of the best characters. Amazing. And there will be blood. Played by Daniel Day Lewis. Goes IS, not SI. It's fine. Another Oscar winner for 1971. Let's see. Snap out of it. I'm gonna guess, just because of the number of letters, that it's Cher. I don't know what movie it might be. Oh, okay. I know what it is now. And then Logan. Hi, hello, YS Books. Is this the warm-up? Yeah. I just like doing this at the beginning of the streams just to... as a way to get started, get the brain working in some fashion. Yeah, it's just kind of a little warm-up, and then we get into the writing. There are channel point redeems if you want to do some more puzzles, but yeah, this is the one that I like to start off the streams with. So for Logan, yeah, a lot of these end up being just like the leads in the movies, so it made them very easy. And we figured out who this is at this point. And we continue our win streak. 12 played, 100% success. Let's see, we have Joel Grey, Oscar winner for 1972. Don't know who that is. Okay, so Cabaret. That makes sense. That movie won a lot of Oscars. Okay, Cloris Leachman won in 1971. That was probably for Last Picture Show. And Louise Fletcher. The name sounds familiar, but I can't place it. Oh, okay. She played Nurse Ratched in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, so yeah, that tracks why she would have an Oscar for 1975. So, we got everything else though, just not the Oscar winners, because especially some of the older ones. Like, I know who some of these people are, and I recognize like Louise Fletcher as soon as I looked her up, but off the top of my head, not always the best. So, alright, we are done with that. Now we are moving on to the actual writing of stuff. One thing I want to do before we get in, so we did kind of some fantasy casting last week, and a couple of these had multiple people that I was thinking of, so I figure I just put them in here, because I can, because why not? So for our character of Bryn, we need Irish actors, and so yeah, Jessie Buckley is another one that I really like, and I believe she's nominated and probably the front runner for the Oscar this year. But yeah, she's excellent. And then for Serafina, we have Monica Bellucci. Was Chad's choice last week, so we will add her in there. And then another choice I found in the meantime was Lynn Carnellini, who's always awesome in everything. So we're going to add her as well. That's just for fun, so we have an idea of who some of our characters might be. So, for our outline, I have some ideas. I hope they're good ideas, but we'll find out. So, what I was thinking is, based on what happened in our previous segment, in the San Francisco sequence, things ended badly between Helene and Margaret. So the next time we catch up with them, I've been trying to figure out how their paths would intersect again. And I ran through some different scenarios, but nothing really seemed to like click and work with me. And then I had the idea of, for this section, what if their paths don't intersect again, or at least not directly, but rather we use this to set up what our final era, final sequence is going to end up being. So what I'm thinking for this one is we're going to set it in the 1960s for a very specific reason, which we'll get to in a little bit. But I think we start off this section with Margaret. So I'm going to call this section Margaret's Doubt. Because I feel like that's something very human that all of us have gone through. Like, even when we're set on a goal or something, there's always this sense of doubt. Like, when you fail at something, it's very easy to give up and give up on your goals. So I felt like that was a very human thing we could have Margaret go through. So when we meet up with her in, let's say, the 1960s, I think she's somewhere in the Southwest United States. living on a farm or ranch. Probably drill down on exactly where in the Southwest a little some other time, but I think that general region is somewhere the story hasn't gone to yet, so I want to kind of have the different eras set in different places as well. So we catch up with Margaret in the 60s. She's living on a farm or ranch in the Southwest. And we're going to bring back Bryn for this. So while we're not going to have Margaret and Helene's paths necessarily overlap, we're going to make sure we remind them of what their goals are. And so using Bryn is obviously going to be an easy way to do that because she's a seer. She'll be able to, and a witch, and so she'll be able to connect and talk with Margaret in a way that other people might not be able to. So Bryn shows up and finds Margaret. So do we want to just show that off the bat? No, I think we hold that back for a minute. Bryn shows up, finds Margaret. Say on her own. On, not one. On her own. Living on / working on the ranch. Margaret's gonna obviously ask Bryn why she's there. Bryn tells her she's been keeping track, keeping tabs on Helene. So Margaret asks her why she's been doing that. Bryn tells her I'll have it tie back to a moment we probably won't end up showing, but we can just kind of tell, and the audience should be able to figure out very quickly what we mean. So Bryn tells her she's been watching her since Margaret showed up. told her about what happened in San Francisco. But we as writers also know Bryn is working for the hunters, and so that's probably the real reason she's keeping track on her, or keeping tabs on her. But she needs enough of a believable excuse to tell Margaret. So that's what she's going to tell her, you know. After what happened in San Francisco, you came to me, you told me what happened, so I've been keeping track of her just in case. So, Margaret how do I want to say this? Yeah. Margaret tells Bryn to tell her whatever she's come here to tell her. And that's when Bryn tells her she's lost Helene. Margaret asks what that means. How is that possible? Bryn is unsure. So far in the scene, we've just been setting up things that have happened kind of off screen, right? So we know Bryn and Margaret knew each other from before. We established Margaret went to Bryn after what happened in San Francisco, and then in the years since she's relocated here, Bryn's been keeping track of probably both of them. But at some point, she's not able to track Helene anymore. And so this is significant. She's a seer, she can find people. And so if she can't, that's kind of a big deal. So, how would Margaret respond to this? And yes, I am holding something back. It's fine. It happens. So Margaret responds in just kind of a flip, brush off, however you want to say it, um, way. Basically saying, like, so you came all the way out here to tell me you don't know where she is. But this response, because we know Bryn has helped Margaret find a lead on tracking down Helena in the past, we know this response strikes Bryn as odd. So Bryn trying to think of a way, not weird way to say this, but basically like Bryn touches her. So we showed in the previous scene that when Bryn touches someone, she's able to see things from their past. So she knows something else is going on here. So she's going to find kind of an excuse to touch Margaret to find. That's such a weird way of saying it. But in order to see what she's hiding. So then we, the audience, see flashes of what Margaret's been up to. And this is where we show how Margaret's doubt manifested. After what happened in San Francisco, at some point she went to see Bryn, and then she wandered, ended up in the Southwest, and she ended up meeting someone new. Romantically. Just to be clear. And we see kind of flashes of the relationship. So then, back in the scene, Major! Hi, Major. Hello. How you doing? Okay. The ringing noise is back. I might have screwed something up. I don't know. Just watching Olympic women's hockey with chillin'. Nice. The Winter Olympics. One time every 4 years, we could pretend to care about niche sports that we don't watch. But hope you're having a good day. Hope you were able to get everything done with your errands and you're staying warm. I got a text from Chillin' is addicted to curling. Yeah. Um, I got a text from my family. They're up in Ohio for one of my or two of my nephew's birthdays. Um, and they said it's supposed to be getting very cold up there. So I texted them back that it was in the 70s out here this past week. Errands were good, productive, got a bunch of stuff done. Only like 16 degrees here, but the sun was out. Whew. That's weird, because out here it's in like the mid 60s, but it's kind of like overcast today. It'll still probably be nice tomorrow for the Super Bowl, so. It would be funny if we had like a week of really nice weather and then it ends up raining all day tomorrow. Oh, I remember to finally ship for good. Oh, nice. Cool. Yeah. I will. I work from home Tuesday, so I'll be here. But yeah, I'll keep an eye out for that, definitely. And I appreciate you, Major. You the best. Hmm. Okay. Where was I? Oh, so we're working on a new section. I had an idea. I don't know if you're gonna like it or not, but we're outlining it, so if it sucks, we'll just yeet it all out of here. But this is why we outline. Um, so basically, after everything goes wrong in San Francisco, and Margaret and Helene kind of go on their own ways again, an idea I have is for Margaret, we pick up with her, and she's living out on her own somewhere in the Southwest, um, on a ranch or farm. Thinking more of a ranch if it's going to be in the Southwest. And then Bryn comes to visit her. They kind of talk about some stuff, and Bryn tells Margaret that she's been trying to keep tabs on Helene, but recently she hasn't been able to track her. She's lost Helene. And Margaret's kind of has an odd response to it. So Bryn uses her powers and finds out Margaret's been living in the Southwest and she's met someone else. So, yeah, this section I'm calling Margaret's Doubt. So, after what happened in the previous section, I feel like Margaret is willing, or I don't know if that's the right word, has taken a step back from her goal of trying to be with Helene. But the person that she's with is going to be human. And the thing about humans is we age. The thing about witches is, in this universe at least, they don't. So while she might be having this relationship, it's ultimately not going to last. And I have kind of an idea of how we're going to try to bridge everything back together. But I just think showing a character like their doubts get the better of them and they give up on the quest or the goal they have, I just think is a very human thing and something interesting. Okay, so that's where I think we're going next. Like I said, if it doesn't work for whatever reason, we can just throw it out and try something else. So, Bryn's able to find out what Margaret's really up to and why she's not as eager to find out what happened to Helene. So I think finding that out Bryn would have a lot of questions. Yeah, Bryn would ask Margaret why she's given up after everything she's gone through. And Margaret would confide in Bryn her doubts. So the way I was thinking of it is Margaret's been spending, at this point, over 200 years. Maybe close to 300. Spending, well, spending over 200 years chasing after Helene. But the doubt, maybe she's not the person she thought she was, or maybe it's just not meant to be, kind of that mindset. Rather, she's no longer the person she used to be. So Bryn brings back up their previous conversation about how do I phrase this? How Margaret convinced her to find Helene. Brings up their previous good. Yeah. Because in that conversation, I think there are going to be some things that we can tie back to. But before she leaves, Bryn notes to Margaret. So I think this is where Bryn lays out kind of what I was talking about earlier. Lays out Margaret knows how it's gonna end. She's ageless. The new significant other is human and middle age. Think of a much cleaner way of laying all that out in the actual text, but guessing this me whatever. Okay. Yeah, I think we just tie it up with, oops, saying what, or typing what I'm saying, not what I'm thinking. Bryn leaves. But her words are kind of, she brought back up Helene again, and kind of all this stuff comes back up for Margaret, so she has to kind of, she'll end up having a lot on her mind after this sequence. Then we're going to catch up with Helene and what she's doing at the same time. So, one thing I haven't been able to quite put my finger on previously, when we were talking about our two main characters, Margaret and Helene, um, their wants versus their needs. Because for Margaret, she wants to find and be with Helene. That's why she's been going through everything she's been going through. In the last sequence, we see she gives up on that, but it'll come back to her. But her ultimate need is she needs to embrace being a witch and her powers as a witch, or else she's going to more or less live on the run for her entire life in fear of being found out. For Helene, it's quite a bit different because she's embraced being a witch after what happened to her in our first scene. And so her what she wants to do, what her mission is to eliminate the hunters. She feels as long as they exist, no witch is going to be safe. They're always going to be hunted in some way or another. But I never could quite put my finger on what her need is, what the real core of her, that the lesson that we want her to learn over the course of this story. And I was thinking about this upcoming scene, and this is where she's confronted with it. But I think I'll need to go back and have it come up in different places. And basically, I think what the lesson she needs to learn is that, I'm just going to use the quote because it's pretty much perfect. There's a Martin Luther King Jr. quote that I love. That is, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And that's more or less the lesson Helene needs to learn. That getting rid of the hunters might let the witches in this world be more free and be able to live fuller lives, but there are other people in this world suffering injustices, and so she needs to be able to expand and understand that she can't just help witches. She needs, if she wants real justice in this world, to help everyone seek it. So that's why I decided to set this section in the 1960s. And this is going to be Helene confronted with that. So I know what the core of the sequence is going to be. I just need to figure out how to get to it in an interesting way, or in a way that tracks for Helene. But ultimately, this sequence is going to end with Helene getting captured by the hunters, and that's why Bryn isn't able to track her anymore. So that's how this sequence is going to end. Helene is captured by the hunters. Which makes it easier for our end sequence. If the hunters have already captured her, they've probably captured more. So, yeah, Helene's going to be captured in the 60s, and she's going to be held by them until present day. So, how do we want to get into the sequence? So I think we bring back Serafina. So Serafina and Helene meet up. Serafina tells her, what does she tell her? Why would they go there? Because they've lost track? Lost track, lost communicate. Yeah. (1960s). Just say the South. Obviously, if you know American history even a little bit, and I say 1960s in the South, you know there's a lot going on. So Serafina brings Helene in, tells her she's lost track of their outpost somewhere in the South. So then Seraphina is going to, I guess, direct Helene to try and get... We have now moved on to the best of curling. I'm guessing Chillin has the remote. I have the remote, but he asked for it. Aww. Mage Awasia is super dope. So we have Seraphina directing Helene to go meet with local witches to try to get some possible leads. We're gonna have Helene meet with no, initially Helene is stonewalled. She can't meet with or get any information from local witches until one decides to talk to her. Oh, dang. We're already almost an hour in. Yeah, I'm gonna take a quick break, and I will throw up some words on stream. Alright, 3, 2, 1. I will be right back. course, that's the first word you type in, Major. Uh, well done, Major. Why do some of them not go through? Yeah. Well done, Major. Carrying the team. You have to wait for the lock individually. I don't know. I just try to unscramble words. Alright. So we have Helene in the south. She's trying to find information about what happened to the Dianic witches in this area. She can't get any information until one witch decides. Alright, Major. Yeah, I just did as well. You're all good. Why? Okay. Major's back. We can continue. Alright, so Helene Stonewald can't get any information, and then we have an African American witch who agrees to meet with her. So initially, this is going to tie into Helene learning her lesson. So Helene initially asks her why no witch would talk to her. She's just trying to find information on missing witches, right? Her focus is on witches. We need to... So we have two kind of new characters we're going to bring in this section? Yes, sequences in this section. Margaret's new significant other, and then the kind of leader, I don't know how to describe her, because still trying to figure out who she is. A black witch in the south. So, yeah. Sorry, thinking of... So I think this witch would be kind of like Helene and some of our other witches. She would be from Africa, and having lived in America for quite some time. So let's look at... Oh, behind the name. That's the one we usually go to. Feminine. Do we specifically want Western African or just... Yeah, it looks like that's... Mara's a name I've always liked. Do we have any characters with A names? No. The names, yeah. It's like, God created, God knows, God rectify, God is answering, God is thinking, God is giving, God is nearby, God possesses.
already have an age name. Like that one. Okay. So Major, do you like Amara better or Tima? Tima? Do you have a preference between those two? So we have a possible A name for the other character. My god, there's so many! We have a B name already in Bryn. We can actually go. Gotta turn on my light. It's starting. Ah, I was straining my eyes trying to read stuff. We already have an M name, obviously. Come back to that. Should probably save this because we keep using it. Okay. Um, okay. So I think I'll go with Amara for her name, but might change it later. So Amara is going to take Helene to task and kind of start laying the groundwork for the lesson she needs to learn. How do we get into this conversation? So Amara tells her that they're not talking to anyone. Helene asks why. Tells her look at just what's happening. Starting to think this might be too on the nose. Right, because ultimately, what Amara is going to tell her is they don't have to just worry about being discovered as witches. They have to live in the South in the 60s as African Americans, black people. Yeah. And that is not easy to do. And so, hmm. Witches. So Amara hands Helene a newspaper, tells her to look at what's happening to people who look like her, and that it's happening all over. Right? So, at this point in history, black witches in the South aren't worried about being discovered as witches. They're worried about what's happening to other black people living in the South. Okay, so how would Helene initially respond to not just being told that, but being shown? So I wonder if it would be some version of like she would help if she could, but she has to find these missing witches. Right? She refocuses back on her objective. Hmm. So I don't know exactly where the conversation would go, but ultimately it would lead to yeah, I might need to redo this scene because I feel like it's gonna end up being way too on the nose. Damn. Major! Major, you're the best. Thank you. What? Hmm. I looked at the alert box, but I don't know why it's not working still. I don't know. Some alerts work, some don't. But I appreciate you, Major. You are the best. Hmm. Yeah, I like the setup for the scene. I just worry if we have the conversation that I was thinking of. Yeah, we might need to toss that. And figure out something else for Helene to be up to during this time. But I think it, either way, ends up with Helene being captured by the hunters. Alright, so my idea for the present day section. So we have Helene captured by the hunters. And let's see. At this point, so the hunters developed a tech to drain witches. There are I put in R there. Render them powerless. So then this is what the hunters have finally gotten to. Right, because at the beginning they were just burning witches at the stake, and then when they were in San Francisco, they discovered they were capturing them, and so there's going to be this progression by the hunters, and ultimately they get to this point. And we already have, if we keep it, the end of the previous section is going to be Helene captured by them, and probably more of the Dianic witches. So we have Helene there already. We need to figure out how to get, and why, to get Margaret there. And I think the answer is going to end up being Bryn, because we also need Bryn there. Because I was thinking, for Bryn, she's working for the hunters, but if she's a seer and able to see things that are coming, The easiest way to describe my thought is she's going to pull a Doctor Strange. She knows that the way to stop the hunters is to help them so that she can get to this point and have Margaret's going to get rid of all the hunters. But I worry that if we do that, someone could watch it or whatever and be like, oh, she did a Doctor Strange. So, I don't know. Yeah, a lot of the stuff I have for the ending, realized that a lot of it was just stuff from comic books and comic book movies. And I was like, oh no, need to think of something else. Yeah, because I feel like the first half of what we have is fairly interesting and somewhat unique. Because, like, a lot of stuff, when I can imagine it in my head, I'm not like, oh, that's where I pulled that from. But the back half, yeah, I am struggling. But we'll figure it out. That's a lot of what writing is, just you have two dots, where your character is, where they need to get to, and you need to figure out the line to connect them. Um, yeah, so I think pulling Margaret into this would have to involve Bryn, but I don't want it to be the same as the previous section of Bryn's living or Margaret's living out in the middle of wherever and Bryn shows up. Because that would feel repetitive, right? And we have Bryn or Margaret going to find Bryn earlier to help her track Helene. So we would need some other way. ad just went live if you choose to raid tonight. But oh, nice. Yeah, we will definitely raid over to him. Probably going to be ending kind of soon-ish. So, yeah, that's awesome. Thank you for letting me know, Major. Let's end. Intercut with. There. Helene. Oh, yeah, that doesn't need an apostrophe. So between when Helene is captured and the present day, we're going to show kind of a quick progression of where each of them are. And then we get to the present day. Yeah, it might take all of that out. So I'm going to have to think about what Helene's up to during that time. Because even the setup for it feels very similar to what we have in the previous section with her in San Francisco. So, yeah. I need to think of some other way of showing that Helene is still dedicated to her cause. So it might be something like a more direct action against the hunters. But I don't know, I'm gonna have to think about it. So somehow she found so somehow we have to somehow Bryn has to tell Margaret that she found Helene and she's in danger. So this will set Margaret back on the path of her goal. So then we need to things we need to hit. Hunters have imprisoned a lot of dynamic witches. I'm going to drain their power and use it to eliminate all witches. Then Margaret has to get there. Hmm. We need to reveal Bryn has been working for the hunters, finding witches for them. The hunters turn on Bryn. She's of no more use, and she's a witch. So then Bryn has to help Margaret. Absorbing Yara from the machine. Margaret uses all the witch's powers to get rid of the hunters. Okay, yeah, that's laying out what we had previously a little bit more. So Margaret frees witches. Releases their powers back to them. Then we have Franz Bryn. So this is a possibility for something. Um, So there might be something about the hunters when they turn on Bryn that she knew it was coming, but this was the only way she could help stop them. So then, after the witches are freed, Helene confronts Bryn. Some way. Oh, so let's say Margaret goes to try and help Bryn because she's injured, but Helene also comes over. Doesn't recognize Margaret. Then we got everything we need all in one place. We got Margaret there, we got Helene there, and we have Bryn who can tell them everything. And then Bryn shows Helene the truth about Margaret from over all the years. And Margaret and Helene are at long last finally reunited, and we probably have this scene afterwards. Okay. Yeah, we have a lot of details we need to figure out. But I think what happens with Margaret probably works, but we need to figure out what to do with Helene in this section. Yeah. And I think this is where we're going to call it for today. Let me... Oh, Words on Stream has been running in the background. Oops. It's fine. I don't think it keeps like the scores between sessions, so I don't think it's a big deal. Alright, we will raid over to Red. See what he's up to. I think it said he's playing something called Yap Yap, so uh, we'll see. Um, but yeah, probably be back Tuesday trying to figure out some more of the details that I wasn't able to figure out tonight, and I feel like we're getting close to having a full working outline, and then we can start actually doing writing. So first we got to finish our outline though and figure out everything we can, or else writing's going to be a huge disaster. But that's for another stream. For tonight, Major, I appreciate you. Thank you again for 5 gifted subs. You the best. And everyone else, stop by. People lurking in the background, not saying anything. I know you're there. Still, I appreciate anyone who stopped by and all that. So I will be back Tuesday evening for more writing, and yeah, we'll pick it up then. Talk to y'all later. Okay, thanks. Bye.
Is this the